Conrail eastbound and Conrail westbound trains have both made their set-offs and lifts in the yard, and the Quebec and New England southbound train has arrived, and power is off to the shop. Crew is taking a well-deserved rest. Let's take a look now and see what the condition of the yard is. Yep, the yard looks pretty full. This is the switch list that's used by the interchange Yardmaster to keep track of all the cars that are being dropped off by the Conrail and Q&NE train, as well as to help him build transfers to the upper industrial zone and lower industrial zone. The first columns marked spot, car ID, and hold 2. These are the cars that were in the yard before the operating session started, the cars that were on hold from the previous operating session that we call constructively placed or waiting for a spot at a customer siding. For this operating session, there were 5 of them. One of them, CGTX 23220, is remaining on hold, but the other 4 have been assigned industrial spots and will be placed in this operating session. The second group of columns represent Conrail eastbound train, which came out of staging yard track W3. This train set off this block of cars here. Within that block, cars have been assigned to customer sidings, as well as there's a block of 3 cars here destined for the next operating session's interchange to the northbound Quebec and New England train. The next group of columns is the Conrail westbound train. It came out of staging track E4, and it too has a block of cars, actually 4 cars, destined to the next operating session's Q&NE northbound train, plus a few cars that are destined to local industries. The final group of columns here, this is the Q&NE southbound train. It came out of staging track W4. All of the cars arriving on Q&NE southbound terminate in the yard here. However, some of them, marked Conrail westbound or Conrail eastbound, are destined for the next day's interchange for pickup by Conrail trains. All the others are either destined to a customer siding, they'll have a spin number, or they'll be marked hold, we'll see a few of them there, that will be constructively placed for the following operating session again when a customer siding might be available for that particular car. This same sheet also includes the trains departing from the yard for the Yardmaster to watch for. So you'll see the eastbound Conrail and the westbound Conrail. It shows the cars that they're lifting. These are generally cars from the previous operating session from the Q&NE southbound or the Conrail eastbound and westbound if it's the Q&NE northbound, plus the cars that were released by customers from industries on the layout and brought up to the interchange yard for either interchange with Conrail or departure of the northbound Q&NE. All of this activity has taken place in this operating session. Let's see now what Greg and the crew have managed to get done with the inbound cars that have yet to be placed. This group of 6 cars in the foreground, Procore, Central Vermont, Rail Box, Boston to Main Box, a Grand Trunk boxcar, and a CGTX tank car. These are the cars that are on hold. And you can see them here on the list. There's the CGTX tank car, there's the GTW box, Boston to Main box, the Rail Box, the Central Vermont boxcar, and the Procore hopper. Looks like Greg managed to sort out some cars for the next operating session's eastbound set-off. Here we see 3 cars, a CP box, a Conrail box, and a CPA box. And move to the left here, we see another 3 cars on the interchange track ready to go for the next operating session's westbound Conrail lift, an FGMR refrigerator car, a DuPont plastics hopper, and a small sand hopper from Conrail. All these cars came in today on the Quebec and New England southbound train, and here we see them listed here in the consist. 3 westbound cars and 3 eastbound cars. So these are already placed on the interchange track out of the Yardmaster's hair, because he needs lots of room in the yard to switch out the remaining cars. Here's another block of cars that looks like Greg has set aside. There are 7 cars here in the foreground. Let's quickly take a look at them and then see if we can match them up with the switch list to see where they came from or where they're going to. It looks like all those cars are cars destined to the next operating session's northbound Quebec and New England train that came in from the eastbound Conrail and the westbound Conrail. And there's those 7 cars. 4 came in on the westbound and 3 came in on the eastbound. So what's left to do? Well, we've got a bunch of cars destined to industrial sidings. We have to sort them out so we can run a transfer to the lower industrial yard, and all those are letters that start with E, F, G, and H. Those are the different industrial zones in the lower yard. So cars such as this one, PLMX, going to GA01, or these ones here going to EB01, FB06, GCO1, GCO2. Let's see if there's any others. There's an FCO1 here, an FFO1 here, and way over here we have an FE01 and FB01. All these cars are mixed in the yard still and need to be sorted out so we could run a transfer down to the lower industrial zone, and again free up more space to switch out cars that need to be spotted locally here in the interchange zone, which is zones C and D, as well as to put together a group of cars for the upper industrial zone, which is switching zones A and B. There was already a transfer made to the lower industrial zone when the Q&NE southbound arrived, just to clear up some switching room. That's these cars here that were on hold. They were already in the yard, so they were sent away straight away to the lower industrial zone just to make some room. Well, after perusing the switch list, here's what we need to do. The black tanker is going down on the transfer to the lower industrial zone. The GT hopper is staying in this zone. It's destined locally to the cereals plant. The ALPX hopper is destined to the lower industrial zone, to the mill. The 40-foot CP boxcar that's tucked in the back there is also destined to the lower industrial zone. There's a CPAA boxcar tucked in there. That's going to the warehouse just behind it. There's a plastics car in the back there that's going down to the lower industrial zone on the transfer. And CN boxcar, and gone, oh, right behind it, those 2 cars are going to the upper industrial zone. Greg and his crew managed to shake out a few cars already for the transfer to the lower yard. That's these cars you see in the middle. There's a carload of pipe, there's a paper boxcar from Main Central, a short tank car of chemicals, and a Santa Fe hopper. So these would be the beginning of the transfer to the lower yard. And finally, this last batch of cars, Conrail box will be staying here. It's destined for the auto parts plant. The plastics car, that one's also going down on the transfer to the lower industrial zone. The Conrail box car and the Chessie sand car, as well as the CSX box car, all staying here in the interchange zone for local industries. And lastly, the GT box car, that's an empty box that's destined to the cereals plant for loading, also in this zone. I misread the switch list apparently. The CPAA boxcar, the Procore car here, is destined for the A zone. So we're going to have to set it over with all the other cars for the A zone to move them all up in one piece. Let's take a step back now and have a look at the condition of our yard. It doesn't look good. All 4 tracks are plugged, and the cut of cars we have for the upper industrial zone needs to be accessed from the right-hand side, and that lead is blocked by our yard engines. So we're going to have to shove all the way through to clear an alley for the upper industrial switcher to come down and grab his cars. Now we'll clear the yard lead, but the tail end of the cut is hanging out way down the other end, but it's still safe. There's an awful lot of power up in the upper industrial zone. You see the 20 and 21 MP15 DCs. These are the normally the lower industrial yard power. They're also used to run transfers up and down, but for some reason they're sitting here waiting their turn up in the upper industrial zone. We're going to have to move them out of the way and tuck them back into the shop tracks to make room for the upper industrial yard engine. That's number 18 with its caboose there to come down and fish out his cars. So off we go.